Welcome back to Mac Music Review. I'm your host, Mac. Today we're going to be looking at an album. Before we hop into the review, just want to say there's going to be some stuff down in the description if you want to know how the channel works. All that good stuff is down in the description. And the birds are really chirping today. It sounds really nice. I like this. I like this noise. Today we're going to be looking at the album Strange Days by The Doors. Strange Days is the sophomore album for The Doors, literally released the same year as their debut album. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. If I've ever seen a sophomore album, a band release their sophomore album literally the same year as their debut album. That's crazy to me. Anyway, this thing is 10 tracks long, and the length of the songs is very drastic. There's a lot of diversity in the song length. Most of the songs in this album are pretty short. In fact, some of them are very short. Unhappy Girl and Horse Latitudes are under 2 minutes long. Horse Latitudes isn't really a song, it's more like a very unsettling, scary interlude. But it's under 2 minutes, and Unhappy Girl's under 2 minutes. And then the songs People Are Strange and My Eyes Have Seen You are under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And so this album really does, so that means 4 of the songs on this album are under 3 minutes, are under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And overall, this album is a little over 30 minutes. The last song on this album is 10 minutes and 59 seconds. When the Music's Over is 10 minutes and 59 seconds. 1 second less than 11 minutes. That is crazy. Especially on an album with all these really short songs. So, a big one third of this entire album is the song When the Music's Over, is the last song. That is a third of the music on this entire album, a third of this album's runtime. As far as Strange Days is concerned musically, this album has a very dark, ominous tone to it. It's kind of a brooding album. It's not like really overtly, really dark and angsty. It's more like kind of subtle, but you can't really shake the feeling when you're listening to this album. When you're listening to it, you just kind of notice it in the background that the music is not super upbeat and the lyrics are a little bit strange or a little bit unusual, sometimes a little bit dark. And overall, that really creates kind of a dark feeling for this album. Not every single song on this album is really dark and kind of contributes to the ominous mood, like the song Love Me Two Times, which is just this really upbeat love song, kind of sensual kind of love song, very upbeat music. It's got it's very upbeat. But then you have some of the really dark songs on this album. I would say the last 3 songs kind of have an element of darkness, especially the darkest moments on this album are Horse Latitudes and When the Music's Over. Horse Latitudes has this just terrifying, literally this is the scare, I think this is either this or The End is the most disturbing, unsettling Doors song. It's like this screamed spoken word poetry, but with like slaves moaning, it sounds like in the background, and whipping, and it's scary song. And then you have When the Music's Over, which at one point has these deeply disturbing lyrics that just come out of nowhere and always just smack you in the face. So, yeah, those are the darkest moments on this album. I would say that lyrically, this album is a little bit more oddball. It's a little more offbeat than some of the other Doors albums. Everything on this album does flow pretty well. The music flows pretty well, and the lyrics make sense in the context of the songs. But there's just a hint of them being off. Like not normal. Like, it's almost normal sounding songs. It's almost a traditional love song. But then there's something else to it. I would say the only exception to this would be Love Me Two Times, which is really just a really upbeat, kind of inappropriate love song. But the rest of this stuff, the lyrics are kind of odd, a little bit strange, and it kind of fits in with the music on the album. I need to talk about the vocals on the album. Jim Morrison is a legendary singer, and for good reason. On this album, he gives a dark, kind of strange, unsettling persona. Especially on the song Horse Latitudes and the scary part of when the music's over. But really throughout the album, sometimes he'll scream and be really energetic, sometimes he's really quiet. He's more down to earth and more quiet sounding. Not really down to earth, but he's more quiet on this album. But yeah, gotta mention that. When I first reviewed this album, I gave it 3 stars. I listened to it twice when I wrote the review, and I thought it was not very good at all. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like the lyrics. I didn't really care a ton for the music. Nothing about the record really worked for me. I mean, it was okay, but I didn't really care for it. These next few times I revisited the record, my opinion has changed because the music is really, it sounds really good. The music on this album, it's strange, it's very interesting, it's a little bit dark, unsettling, and everything is very well produced. This whole album, besides Love Me Two Times, I would say this whole album flows very well. The instrumentation is very interesting and very effective at creating this mood, creating this feeling, creating this aura of, I don't even know how to describe it, of darkness, of brooding, but kind of subtle, but at the same time you can't not notice it. And I think that's really cool, that this album has this mood and this feeling that it really effectively creates. And for that reason, I would say musically this really is a pretty impressive album. The number one problem with this album is the last song. The last song is 1/3 of the runtime of this album, practically 1/3 of the runtime of this album. So, it better be good, right? It better be good if it's 1/3 of the album. Unfortunately, it's not that good. It's like watching a movie, like watching a really long, boring movie on Netflix, and you're just constantly checking the runtime just to wait till it's over. You're constantly looking down, like, when is it over? How much more do I have left? I want to be done with this. That's what this song is like. It goes on, and it just drags. This song just drags on to infinity. It feels like it's long just for the sake of being long. It doesn't sound that great. Maybe it would sound good if it was 3 minutes long, but this one's 11 minutes, and I don't like it. This is not a good song. And for that reason, I think that song really harms the album in general. I would say the lyrical content of this album is not as good as the music. The music is very well produced. It sounds very interesting. It flows very well. I would say the lyrics on this album are kind of, I mean, a lot of times they really contribute to the element of the strange. They have just slight things that make it kind of offbeat and kind of unsettling and kind of not normal. And I think that, for that reason, some of them are pretty effective. And other lyrics on this thing are not amazing. Like on Love Me Two Times. Those are the nails in this album's coffin, is Love Me Two Times and When the Music's Over. Love Me Two Times isn't the worst song ever made, but When the Music's Over is not good. Anyway, lyrics work. But what I really do need to talk about is the vocals. Like I said, Jim Morrison is a really good singer, and he does a great job on this album. I don't know if I've ever said he's done a bad job. He does a great job on this album. Fits very well with the ominous tone of the album and the strange offbeat tone of the album. He really contributes to it. Really, his vocals are a very essential part of this album. Fit very well with the music, fit very well with the lyrics. His vocals really do work very well. I'm going to give this album 3.75 out of 5. Yep, this Doors album went from being my least favorite Doors album to probably my second favorite Doors album. My second favorite, well, I don't know. I'm weird because the most, what's known as the worst Doors album is the Soft Parade. And that's the last album I'm going to review. And I actually ended up really liking the Soft Parade. I think it's really interesting, kind of a fun, enjoyable. That's the best word I can describe the Soft Parade. Best word to describe Waiting for the Sun is, interesting. Best word to describe this album would be kind of ominous. It's very well produced, but it's kind of ominous, creates a feeling. So that's good that it can do that. And then the Soft Parade, best word would be enjoyable, fun. Excited to get to that review. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it, as always.